Oh, it's going. I'm sitting here staring into space. Okay. Anyway, so now putting the alternator back together. And so I've got the diagram, but I've also got my pictures. And so we see that, I don't even know what that little bit of crap is there. Anyways, it's time. I went out to my shop. Oops. And, how does one get out? There we go. Put it into my press. First the bearing. And, ooh, I didn't take any more pictures, but the little collar, little ring was a little bit of a drag. I had to find I couldn't find a washer, but eventually I found a spacer, like in a shock absorber kind of thing, and I got that pressed on. And then I've had this bright idea for quite some time, because you notice that the slip rings have been worn down and have a groove in them. Also, I'm not happy about the position, but I'm not, from what I can tell, is this is an assembly that, which camera is this? No, it's that camera. It seems like it's one piece in the copper, and it's pressed on, and oh, look at that, I see some splines. Okay, so that's, well, I don't see the splines on this end, so that does sort of imply that they, let's see, they pressed in on, so I can see some splines on the one end where one assumes they were pressing from, but I don't see any splines over in the end by the coil, so sort of implies that they pressed it too far. Although this, yeah, if they backed off a little bit, this, let's see, can't keep the camera straight. If they hadn't pressed it down so far, then this one would be a little more centered, and this one wouldn't be right on the edge. And it could be because the way I haven't gotten into, I'm going to take this apart in a few minutes, and maybe there's a way to get those things to sit straighter. And so, looks okay. Well, we'll see when I have that taken apart. So anyways, you can't just file this because you get flat spots. So I've been imagining chucking it up in a drill press and using the base with now the bearings on, this piece of wood, just to keep things from being damaged. I chucked it up, and then I brought the table up to squeeze it a little bit, and then I was sitting down. Now, of course, I stood up and and backed away. I mean, I spun it a couple times by hand, but there's not much you can do other than just turn it on. And there it goes. It's at a fairly low speed. Of course, a lathe would be the best. But nice to watch a video of a video, huh? And so I was going to use a file, but then I got too worried about that. I took some sandpaper and a block of wood and worked it down. And then at the end, I used some 800 grit. See, there's the soldering point. I hit that a little bit. I had to be careful. I didn't want to damage that. I mean, I have the ability to solder it, but that's a large piece of copper. I mean, it could be solid copper. So it's hard to solder that because it'll absorb heat. So maybe with with a propane torch, but I just didn't want to go down that road. Okay, so now I've got that going on, and now we'll start putting some of it together. So there's this little wavy washer. Let's see if that was in the diagram. No. Interesting. But, you can imagine that's you want to make sure it doesn't slide back and forth. If you've ever installed front wheel bearings, or especially a pinion bearing, where you have to set a preload, a pinion bearing, and then a differential, a non-Volkswagen differential, something about that. These are not tapered bearings. We just don't want it to slop back and forth. So I'm assuming Volkswagen or the Bosch people put that in there. Oops. And I thought, okay, I'd probably never take this apart again, but it couldn't hurt to put a little oil on this. So little assembly oil, so that someday if somebody wants to rebuild this again. But in this case, I think the failure point's going to be the slip rings, and I don't see that ever being repaired. So that, look at that, slides right in now. And there's that ring. The ring is sort of, I guess, to help keep out dirt. Although, of course, it's an open cage, right? But whatever. So now this thing goes on, and I was a little worried about, I don't know if that's going to slip through with the bearing on it. No, I'm glad. Oh, man, I just dodged a bullet, because I thought I had to press these on, and I don't remember needing a press to get it off, or a bearing puller, but if I'd have pressed it on, then I'd have to go back out there and pull it back off, because I wouldn't be able to assemble the damn thing. So I dodged a Murphy bullet, huh? I have a saying that if it's going too easy, you're doing something wrong. Oh, shit. Like that. And so it's a Murphy corollary. If you know anything about logic. Oh, shit. So you gotta go slowly. And it's bad when I'm talking, because I always screw up when I'm talking. So I want to make sure that the wavy washer is still in there. And it was, but it's always good to be sure. Trust but verify. Those of us of a certain age know what that means. And who it's a quote from. Of course, now it doesn't want to go together nice and easily like it did a little while ago. Let's see. Okay, shouldn't force it. Let me pause this for a moment. Zoom. Alright, well, I paused it. You don't know the difference. But I got it back in, and of course the wavy washer, I got to remember the wavy washer is going to make it rebound. So now let's get this back on. And that was something I was a little worried about, that he didn't remember, or maybe I just don't see it, what's the orientation of this thing. But luckily enough, there's 3 screws, but they're not exactly 120 degrees apart. So if now it's lined up, I see this gap here is next to the B. So just to be certain, double check what I said. So now that's lined up, and those 2 aren't. And next one lined up, and those 2 aren't. So now that one's lined up. They're all 3 lined up. Okay, great. Now, little box. And 1, 2, 3. I suppose I should put some Loctite on them, but I'll do that later. And at least these are accessible when it's installed. So in principle, I can always tighten them up again. Oh yeah, I put the few tools in my pocket. Okay. Pause again. Alright, so I got this one in the front, the pulley plate in, and what I'm going to do now is I'm going to put this together without the voltage regulator, because I realized that you may remember that I said something about not being able to demonstrate that the voltage, what the output is like without the regulator, and I realized that I can do something about that. Let's see, trying to remember. Oh yeah, those are the screws that attach it to the fan housing. I just didn't want to lose that, but I guess that can go on for the time being. And then also the screws that hold the back plate on, I kept here. You know, the best way not to lose a screw is to sort of put it where it was as best you can. You might see in the one upper, it's the screws that hold the voltage regulator, or you can see in there. And then, so now I'll pull out this long one. This one's, you know, of course, stresses you out because you're wondering if you're going to snap this off when you're taking it out. Okay. Let's see, my wife brought me some lunch. Okay, I'm going to pause this a moment. So I noticed there's gaps, and I thought, oh, maybe this thing is keyed somehow. Oh, there it is going in. Okay, never mind. There it is. I wondered if it was keyed. And I'm again going, oh shit, did I goof and not take a picture of something I needed? But so far, so good. Of course, now I gotta find the landing spot for these bolts. Looks alright. Find out in a minute. Gosh bless it that there's Phillips head. I think it's people who design things with slotted screws nowadays should be lined up against the wall. I never understood, even in a 1960 vehicle, why there's still slotted screws. You know, well, you know what, to be fair, the only real culprits in a Volkswagen is the sheet metal, the engine tin screws, if I think about it. Okay, so snug these down. And let's see if it's moving nice, and it's not moving what is that, longitudinally or axially? It's not moving axially. Try to say that 3 times fast. So for the moment, I'm gonna put the old brushes in, and I'm going to pause this. I'm gonna put the old brushes in, and I'll wire up my power supply over there to this thing, and we're gonna see if we can produce some output. And yeah, maybe I can even get it on the oscilloscope, so that you guys can see what goes on. The principal thing I wanted to show you is that the output voltage goes up and down with the RPMs, and that's really the bottom line about why we need to have a regulator, on top of the fact that, you know, once the battery is charged, you want to back off, right? But there's really 2 important reasons for the regulator, is to back off when the battery is charged, And also to overcome this is a very simple and rugged design, but because it's so simple, it just the faster it spins, the higher is the output voltage. So you need some way to regulate that. So if you didn't, of course, you'd burn everything up in your vehicle. Okay, so I guess I'll stop this and then start a new video instead of just pausing it, because I like keeping them to only 15 minutes long. Okay, here we go.